Hello and welcome back to ELT English Language Teachers Teaching Under the Covers, and I'm here, Neil Teacher, along with my adjacent on the other side of the screen is
the crispy, charismatic Chris. Oh no, wait, sorry. This the rough and ready Rich.
the unravishing. We don't want to forget that as well.
And I'm with naughty Neil. That's the best I can come up with right now.
And today we are looking at some comedians that do some sketches. They do a multitude of sketches, but they are quite famous for some sketches where they are acting as teachers. It is the Key and Peele sketches. We're specifically looking at Substitute Teacher and also another one as well, but I'll leave that to the end. And it's a little bit of a surprise. Hopefully from these clips we can garner some interesting conversation around teaching or teachers. I don't believe Rich has seen these clips before. I'm a big fan of Key and Peele. I find them very hilarious. So we'll see how Rich reacts to these inner city American teaching. Let's cue it up.
All right.
All right, listen up, y'all. I'm y'all substitute teacher, Mr. Garvey. I taught school for 20 years in the inner city, so don't even think about messing with me. Y'all feel me? Okay, let's take a roll here. Jay Quellen. Where's Jay Quellen at? No Jay Quellen here? Yeah.
Do you mean Jacqueline?
Okay, so that's how it's gonna be. Y'all wanna play? Okay then. I've got my eye on you, Jay Quellen. Balake. Where is Balake at? No Balake here today. Yes, sir.
My name's Blake.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? Blake. What? Do you want to go to war, Balaki?
No.
Because we could go to war.
No.
I'm for real. I'm for real. So you better check yourself. D nice. Is there a D nice? If one of y'all says some silly ass name, this whole class is gonna feel my wrath. Now, D nice.
Do you mean Denise?
Son of a bitch. You say your name right now.
Denise?
Say it right.
Denise.
Correctly.
Denise.
Right.
Denise.
Right.
D nice.
That's better. Thank you. Now, Timothy.
Okay. Should we make some comments?
Yes. The comments that I kind of had in mind was, I know it's kind of the way they're doing it. It's silly because he's pronouncing names, if they were some sort of incorrectly or what have you. But we kind of have like the background of being in different classrooms where I don't know if you've ever encountered saying names from students from different countries and you've no idea how to say those names.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in Vietnam, I struggled a lot at first. You have some names which look very different to how you would say them in any kind of European language, really.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar. I guess you're familiar with like
NYUGN.
Yeah, it's Nguyen.
Yes.
And as far as I can tell, the pronunciation is something like Nguyen.
Yeah.
But I'm probably not saying it very well either. But there's others as well. There's others. So yeah, definitely. And when you first arrive there, you just kind of murder all the names, and it's pretty much a similar situation to this. To be honest, taking registers is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I understand the necessity of it, especially with young learners, because you have to know where they are, right? And if there's if there's a fire, or what's happened to them, or you have a duty of care to these students as well.
Yeah.
So therefore, it is kind of a critical thing, but it's something that I just want it to be like bang, 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 done.
Yeah.
And any sort of disruption to that is not good. But on the other hand, an inaccuracy in your register would be a very serious problem, wouldn't it? Potentially,
if something goes wrong and you have to account for all the kids.
Like if you say someone's not there, and then there's a fire drill, and you go outside, and then there's they go, oh, okay, yeah, no problem, and then you get a call from the parents and like, where's our kid? Like, we dropped her at the school, the register set, and they're like, oh, well, the teacher's marked her not here. And that could be a potentially very bad situation. So yeah, obviously it is important, but it's kind of a I suppose you can make it into like games and stuff, can't you? But I think really the way forward for me with registers is the students sort of logging themselves in somehow or something like that. I guess with smaller classes, it's easy enough, isn't it? Because you just eyeball them and you go, oh, my 6 students are all here, or whatever.
Yeah. There's 2 things that I kind of like with registers. I mean, I didn't have to really do them when I was in China. That was the local teacher's job. I did them when I was in Korea with the Hagwons, because it was smaller classes anyway, and they would just be my class. But I kind of use that as a register as opportunity to engage, kind of like collect the kid, kind of see where he's at, even if it's just a how are you, or sometimes I would have we play a game and have a certain greeting, especially with the younger kids, we'd kind of agree on like I do a fist bump with you, and we do a handshake with the other, or a high five with a different one, and it's just kind of like, okay, we're connected, we're both here, we're both acknowledging each other. It's just kind of like building a bit of attachment, I guess, and I like the individualization of it, and I like the ones you see it with a lot of stuff on social media with teachers, that they have classes, especially with the public schools, where they line them up outside and they each greet the kid as they enter the classroom. I think that's a really good way to go about it, because they're not, especially when the classes get larger, you don't want the kids to just kind of feel like they're one in a crowd. They're just kind of part of a group, but not an individual. And I think that's really important when you're a little kid, to kind of feel like you're an individual. But also, in regards more to being teaching in a non-native English speaking country, and having these names that you're just not accustomed to saying, I think it's good to try to use their names, or at least be like, well, what do you want to be called? I'm the longer that I have been teaching, the more I'm very reticent, or a bit icky. That's the word I come out with, about giving English names. I don't know how much you've experienced that. I know a lot of teachers are like, can't pronounce your name, you're Optimus Prime, can't pronounce your name, you're Sticky Fingers, or whatever.
Yeah.
All
right. So yeah, I know what you're saying with that.
But I'm like, that's your name,
Yeah. So doing it for the obvious reason of not being able to pronounce their name, I think, is not necessarily the best thing. I've done English names actually, but prompted by the students. That the kids in the class wanted English names, and so I did them. In fact, I think I even had a vote. I was like, right, are we going to do English names then? Yes, no. And the vast majority wanted English names, so that's what we did. And I have done funny names before, normally with kids that are a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Like, there was a kid that I used to call Mr. Green just because he was wearing a green t-shirt. And I think he was cheeky from sort of day one. And I didn't know his name properly in day one, you know. So I was like, hey, Mr. Green, you know, da, 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 da. And it sort of stuck. And actually, he liked it. And I remember at one time I put them into teams and wrote their names on the board. And I wrote like his actual name. And he's like, teacher, it's Mr. Green. You got me to change it to Mr. Green. So yeah, it kind of, those kind of little nicknames and stuff can stick sometimes. I mean, for me, it's like if the students like it, they like it, you know. But nobody should be called a name that they don't want to be called. I think that's pretty important. Yeah. So if you do English names, it should definitely be a choice, I think, for the students that they select their name. Or if you give them a nickname and you see that it's something that they positively respond to, then obviously that's kind of that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I use nicknames anyway, you know, just because it's fun. It's a way of kind of getting attention, especially if you can kind of tease students a little bit like you did with like Mr. Green, where it's just, you know, you're not picking on him, but you know, it's, oh, he always wears a green shirt, so it's kind of a little bit funny.
That's right.
It's actually individualization. It's actually seeing them as you've noticed that this person, so you're actually building some sense of personalization with them and the teacher, and it's really important.
In some ways it can build a community in the classroom, can't it?
Yeah, in jokes, you know, it's just like with your friends and stuff.
Totally. Yeah, and with regards to registers, I almost always use seating plans with students under the age of 16, even sometimes with 16 and 17-year-olds as well. Because I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics you can do with seating plans. And if you don't have a seating plan, then people always sit with the same people. And these aren't necessarily the best groupings. I understand that, you know, once in a while, maybe you can go, okay, today the seating plan's off, sit wherever you want. And they go, yeah, but all right. I think it is useful to have seating plans otherwise. And what I do is once the seating plan is established, I make a little map with the names, and I try to learn the names that way. And that's been effective for me up until class sizes of about 20.
Yeah.
I've never really taught class sizes above 20, so not regularly anyway, just one-off workshop type things. So I've never been in a situation where I've had to memorize more than 20, but it works well with 20. And then the way that the register works for me is once you've given those kind of 10 minutes of the start of the class for late arrivals and stuff like that, I know what their seating plan is in my head. So I'll just look at the classroom and look where the gaps are. Okay, so 5, 4, 5, 3. Okay, we're missing 1 on that table of 4. Who is it? You know, and I do it backwards like that. And then we don't even have to do a roll call because I'm just doing it from the seating plan. And that's the way I like the register to go myself.
That's good. I really commend you with that, because especially making sure that the groups aren't self-selected by the students, because I think that there can be problems if you just let students just sit with their friends, because then it becomes the class is I sit with my friends. It's too peer orientated rather than you know, what the whole idea of the class, we should be learning English, and it should be channeled kind of more through your prism. Yeah,
I think so too. And there's lots of different things you can do, isn't there? Like you can change the seating plan every now and again and get different things going on. I think that's quite good. And I think you do feel that when it mixes it up. And I think it's good to establish that early on, though, as well, because if you sort of let the students sit everywhere, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and then lesson 4, they're climbing up the walls, and you're like, okay, now we've got a seating plan, then it's going to be like, hey, teacher, seating plan. Eh. So it works like not quite so well. So it's good to get in with that seating plan as early as you can, even if you think you won't have to use it. Because later on, you can always say, no seating plan anymore, but you're setting yourself up for some trouble if you kind of let them do whatever they want. And then you're like, oh, we need a seating plan because you guys are always messing around and you guys are obviously this or that. Now, when I do the seating plan, I do try to make it as considered as possible, especially when I know the students a bit better and I redo it. And like I say, I do try to change the seating plan around quite regularly. And that's very easy with like IWBs and stuff, because you can just have a seating plan template of your classroom, and all you have to do is throw the names on it and you've got it, right? And that's your thing on the IWB. And then to move them around, that's simple, right? You're just moving you just dragging and dropping, whether it's in Flash or it's in some IWB software or whatever. And I will try to be considerate to things like, you know, oh, well, I know that she's best mates with her, so I'll sit them together. That's all right, you know, as long as they're not too disruptive. I just don't want that group of 4 girls who always go nuts and speak Vietnamese and start bullying people or whatever they do, right? But yeah, 2 and 2 there, right? Okay. And then maybe set them up with a contrast, right? Okay, we're going to stick these 2 lads there and that'll calm everything down. You know, it's that kind of thing. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And then when you shuffle it round again next time, you have more information that you can try different things out. But I think it's definitely good, and not just in terms of learning English, but I think it's just a good social thing for the students as well.
Yeah, and the fact that it's under your control, I think, is important, because you know their safety as well is your priority, and their learning is your priority. If they were to choose it themselves, it might not be their priority, right?
Yeah.
Should we continue?
No, definitely not. I mean, the priority is like slacking off, isn't it? Priority of young teens, slacking off. Priority of older teens, like hitting up some other teens that they fancy in some way.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we doing? Yeah, let's carry on.
I wish that had happened when I entered the class.
Now, today will not be a day off. In fact, today you will work harder than...
Okay. Okay, there we go. Coming in, serious teacher. Then let's rip Brownzo's pants up. Ever happened to you?
I think we spoke at one time about the time when my trousers ripped at the start of a day. It wasn't the first class with these students, though. I did know them. Actually,
but you were
I
able
don't
to
think...
dodge it, right?
Well, yeah, that's right. I don't think they realized. And what I did is I just sat next to the computer, and I actually had like a whiteboard just on the wall as well. So I had the whiteboard there for error correction. Then I had the computer with a projector, and I just stayed seated. I had like 4 or 5 classes, and I don't think any of them actually noticed. They kind of seemed like something weird was going on.
Yeah.
But there was no need at any point for me to stand up, and I was delegating, a lot. I guess it was interesting that way, if I needed to hand something out, it'd be like, Maria, come here you go. Hand these out, kind of. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. As for, I'm just trying to think, farting in the class, if that's ever sort of happened to me in such a noticeable way. Probably the closest. I mean, we spoke about fly being unzipped as well.
Yeah.
That seems to happen to every male teacher at least once.
Yeah.
But again, the one time it happened to me, which thankfully was an adult class, no one said anything, and I just realized later and was like, "Oh my God!" and then sort of forgot about it, and that was the end of it. So these things happen, I suppose. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've flies open. I've ripped my pants as well, and luckily it was at that time I was teaching behind a podium, so I had a chair, so I was able to kind of just stay behind the podium and kind of like perch on the chair, and no one noticed till the end of the day. But yeah, I guess with this clip, the thing that I was thinking that maybe we want to talk more about is like he comes in quite serious, and the whole blah 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 idea of how a teacher should be super stern and all that sort of stuff, and then he let rips fart and he leaves because he's like, well, that's me completely undermined. Is there anything that you think as a teacher that you shouldn't do, or that teachers do, that just do an equivalent of that farting, that just like, well, you've just done that, you might as well just leave the class now because you've completely undermined your position or authority?
Ironically, I think that shouting can do that.
Yeah, totally.
I think if you sort of come in and something crazy's, or just an overreaction or like an attempt at clamping down in an overreactive way, I think it can do, especially if that class is comfortable with each other and you're the new person coming into it, then I think they can definitely use that against you.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, people a teacher might do that. They might lose their top and they might get angry, and those kids might become silent in that particular class. But then the next class, they won't be as silent, and then the next class and the class after, and it will just go back, and it will go back, and when you go back to being angry the second time, it won't work, and then it's just going to escalate. It completely undermines your position. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, totally. And then even if it works, then they resent you and all the rest of it, and it's essentially it's going to be a problem, isn't it? So
you're undermining the teacher-student relationship, which is that you're basically trying to give them kind of a safe, kind of secure space that you're in this position of it's like a position of power where you wouldn't abuse it with you wouldn't abuse that power by doing something like that. You're trying to guide them towards what they're trying to learn. So by kind of doing that, you're severing that connection. It's like, and then it's just they're trying to connect to the subject, and often students need that attachment to the teacher to be able to learn.
That's right.
Because if they're not, they're too attached to their peers.
Yeah, totally.
And if their peers aren't interested in learning, then you're
I mean,
totally
when
screwed.
do you ever hear someone say like, "Oh, what was your favorite subject at school? Oh, history. Oh, yeah. My teacher was absolutely shit, but I just loved history." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's true. That is one of the things that is important about being a teacher. You could be depriving someone potentially of an interest in a subject. And I think one of the critical kind of rule for me with discipline is that you never want there to be a sense that it's personal, even if you do develop personal dislikes for certain students, which you should try certainly not to do. But let's be honest, we are human, and sometimes you do come across someone who's a little shining person, and they they might, but you don't want to make it personal, even in your own mind, really, because it's going to make it more difficult for you to somehow connect with them on some level. And if you can connect with them on some level, that tends to be how you get through to them anyway. Mm-hmm. So you want to avoid even feeling it, but demonstrating it. If the student in question or a group of students starts to get a whiff that you're holding some sort of personal grudge against them, you've lost them forever, and it's so difficult to ever get that back again. So I think that's a critical rule for me when it comes to discipline. Discipline should be just used sparingly, fairly, impersonally, and the aim of imposing discipline is for the benefit of the class. It's not for your benefit as the teacher, because the more it becomes about just making your life easier by sort of taking something out on a student, the more that kind of idea of it being personal might seep into it.
Exactly. You've really got to focus on preserving that teacher-student relationship. It's really important, because if you don't have that good dynamic with them, then what are you doing after that? And I think it kind of extends as well to that this idea of, like he was demonstrating in the beginning class, that you walk in and are a stern teacher. There's when I say, and I presume when you say, talking about being disciplining, if he's like that, I think it's fine if you want to be more of a stern, more of a serious teacher, more of a disciplinarian. But like you said, it has to be within the context that you're wanting the best for the students. You're not just doing that because it makes your life easier. You're going, no, I want you to repeat this exercise again because, and you want them to do it again and again and again because you think that they can do better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that
it's context.
There's definitely a range of levels of discipline that you can use, and you can have very, very, very effective results being, as you say, a disciplinarian. It can, I know teachers who are very, very, very good teachers who teach their teen classes very differently to how I teach them in terms of discipline, right? Because I'm really not a disciplinarian at all. I don't like discipline myself, and so I'm relating to my students, I kind of think, well, if it's something that I don't like, then why should I be imposing it on them? So I very much like, as you say, to have that person-to-person thing, to kind of show them the kid in me, and even if they just think, oh, this old man's trying to be cool, well, whatever, it's something. Whereas, some people don't. Some people, they do have that more disciplinarian thing. They expect the students to all be sat up straight, and what is it? Hands on heads. They do sometimes, don't they? Hands on heads, sat up straight. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, and all that. And you can have very good results with it. You can be like bang, 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 and fine if that's your style and it works for you. That's great. Personally, I don't think I would have a lot of fun with that. I think I would lose a lot of kind of fulfillment for me, and it would change the dynamic of the classroom. But and as for the discussion as to what gets the best results and things like that, I think that's a very complicated area. But I definitely think there's merit in disciplinarian tactics.
Well, I mean, when you talk about that, it starts to wander off into, well, what do you mean by results? Do you mean that they pass the exams, or do you mean that they're learning English? How the results of these provable results? In what way? And then it gets really squirrely. But I think
do they enjoy the class and things like that as well? I remember some teachers at school who I kind of liked, but who were very strict. And I remember doing very well in the subject. I had an interest in the subject. I was good at the subject, and the teachers were very strict. But I don't remember the classes being like massively fun. You know, I remember kind of going there, getting good results in the exam and stuff. But I didn't sort of like look forward to the classes. Although it was comforting knowing that like the teacher wasn't going to lose control of the class, because that can be a discomforting thing for a student to know. If you know you're going to a class where the teachers can't control the class, that's not a particularly pleasant situation for most of the students, apart from the loud ones, the bullies, the class clowns. You know, a great deal of the students are just going to go into that. That's how I was at school anyway. I'd be just uncomfortable, like, oh no, it's Mrs. whoever who has no idea how to control the class. But on the other hand, there were classes where I was like, oh, I'm excited about this class. It's going to be fun, right? And those were definitely, you know, they were my teachers more that I would say were my favorite teachers. Those were the subjects that I've kind of felt like somehow an interest had been cultivated within me for that subject, rather than it coming from something else. So yeah, that's my way of doing it. I want the students to enjoy the class and be motivated that way. But but I'm not.
Well, because they can, if they enjoy the class and enjoy the subject, they can carry that on outside. So you know, we both know that if you're wanting to get good at something, you have to be doing it not just within the 30 or 60 minutes that you have during the week. If you really want to get to a certain level of mastery, you've got to be doing it every day. And language learning is one of those things that it needs continual daily practice, in my opinion,
but especially so, I think.
You know, in compared to something, you know, like maybe maths or science, where you can do more of a put down, pick up. But even then, you know, maths and science is included in everyday stuff that you do. It's just, it's not, the way it's presented in class is not the same way it is in real life. Should we cue up the next clip?
Right, okay,
Teaching Center.
Hello and welcome to Teaching Center. I'm Boyd Maxwell with today's top stories from the exciting world of teaching. And I'm Perry Schmidt. Well, now we know. Long-awaited announcement by star English teacher Ruby Ruth has sent teaching fans across the nation into a frenzy.
I've enjoyed my time in Ohio very much, but I'm pleased to announce that I'm taking my talents back to New York City. Thank you very much.
Say it's not true.
31 has made Ruby an offer she couldn't refuse. 80 million guaranteed over 6 years. Another 40 million in incentives based on test scores. The salary puts her right up there with Rockbridge Elementary's Katie Hope and William Wu out of Colgate. All right, let's take a look at yesterday's high school teacher draft from Radio City Music Hall, where Central Rapids High, recipient of the worst test scores last semester, made the first pick. That was no surprise to anyone.
With the first pick, Central Rapids High takes calculus teacher Mike Yost from Tulsa Teachers College.
How did they wrangle that one?
Mike Yost is an unbelievable story. His father living from paycheck to paycheck as a humble pro football player. Kid was a natural mathlete. You know he's gonna buy his mom a house. Oh, you know this. Oh, there's no way around that. You owe your mom.
This is amazing. This is just incredible, isn't it? This is ultimate. Imagine a world where teaching would be like this, you know? Sports players just kind of get by. They do it because they enjoy it. They know they're not going to make that much money from it, but it's the teachers who are like,
if only I could be one. If only I have the natural talent.
Yeah, exactly.
The physical body to be a teacher.
Yeah, and put the work in. You know, but all those things you see, like those videos where it's like Michael Jordan, right? And he's like, you know, just to be the best, I had to fail 10,000 times or whatever. You know, imagine they'd all be like teachers, or like some like Bob, the maths teacher. Do you know how many classes I had to teach before I was as good as I am today? People only see the A's. What about all the D's? What about all the E's?
This wooden pencil that's gradually whittled down to like a little stub. No one sees the journey of this pencil, you know, this sort of thing. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, so cool. Should we just carry on with it?
Yeah, let's carry on, and we'll talk about it more towards the end.
Of the day is brought to you by the 100% Black Angus Beef Thick Burger on a fresh baked bun from Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
Now it's time for the highlight of the day. Star history teacher Ashley Ferguson has been running up them test scores over at Vince Clortho High.
Okay.
Woo!
Confederate forces fired first. Can anyone tell me where this battle took place?
Now, look at this. She looks left, then right, looks past the students with their arms up in the air, spots Max near the back, sees that even though his head is up, he's gay.
Max?
It was Fort Sumter.
That's right.
Oh, come on. See what she did there? She's bringing an introvert into the discussion, y'all. That's a Teacher of the Year play right there. Answering that question correctly will enhance his performance throughout the rest of the year, no doubt. Coming up after the break, Mayfield Prep trades French teacher Janine Lowe to Skyline High for a head librarian and 2 lunch ladies to be named later. And we'll get the inside scoop on the impending teacher strike that could cripple the season. Next up on Teaching Set.
All right.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that fantastic? I really love the scene where they pick apart the teaching play. You know, where she's like, she looks right, she looks left, she sees he's engaged, but he's not got his hand up. It's actually pretty true.
That's pretty much what people do in like observed classes, right?
Yeah.
That's literally, I mean, you could literally imagine someone in a post-lesson feedback, you know, an observer saying, oh yeah, I saw you know, when you were nominating the students you asked an open question to the class, and then I saw you looked left, you looked right, but then you spotted, you know, little Jimmy at the back, and you picked him out, you know, good job. You know, so totally. How cool is that? It's good. What I really like about this is these fellas. Like I say, I've never come across them before. I think I recognized one of them. I recognized the fellow who was sat on the left, but I don't really know them at all. But they seem to know a bit about teaching, which is cool. You know, that's what we really look for in these media depictions of teaching, is some sort of informed knowledge. Yeah. And we found it in kind of Harry Potter, interestingly enough, because JK used to be a teacher. And yeah, there's
No way. JK, still waiting on that invite. We sent it out there. Come on. Yeah, actually, I think it was Peele, or was it Key? I can't remember. He did a film where he's I think it's Teacher of the Year or something like that. So a comedy film or whatever. Maybe we can have a look at that later. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but I saw a trailer for it. It could have been just a sketch actually. But anywho, I wouldn't be surprised if they had some sort of background, or maybe their parents were teachers or something like that.
Yeah, or at least they consulted. You know, there's some thought gone into it, isn't there? So very good.
Well, you know, I kind of think it would be great if teachers were trapped, you know, like this way, in that it become like some sort of high social status occupation job to have. You know, we're going back in time. You know, you'd have all these. You know, we're talking Aristotle and Plato. You know, these would be the esteemed members of society. Right. Like, oh, just let me into the auditorium. I can't remember what they called the open thing that they had. It was like an auditorium. Just let me in and listen. Let me listen to them. Let me hear them debate, because there was just lots of debates and stuff.
Areopagitica.
Yeah.
The hill. It was the Hill of Athens.
Yeah.
For free discussion. Yeah. The Areopagitica. So yeah, totally, man. I think unfortunately, we do kind of have it for university professors, where that's where the bar to entry is a certain level of highness. You have to do all the academia. But unfortunately, I feel like it's slightly misplaced. So, yeah, I agree. I think the idea of it being a focus on teaching, a good teacher, rather than someone who just knows a lot, or someone who studied a lot, which is, university professors.
Yeah.
I think that the ability to teach, knowledge of teaching, it would be nice if it was something that was a bit more respected. And it's almost like that thing that, they had it in Breaking Bad, didn't they? That I think in like season 1 or season 2, he says to someone, "Oh, I'm a teacher," and it's like one of his old colleagues, and he's like, "Oh, what university are you teaching at?" And he's like, "No, high school." And they're like, "Oh, right,"
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, why should it be like that? This is such an important role for society, isn't it? A hell of a lot more important than someone kicking a ball around the field. I'm sorry, professional footballers, but it might be. It's entertaining what these people do, isn't it? But unfortunately, this is where, it is a shame that our society is like that. And I have heard that some countries are a bit different about it.
Yeah.
Well, for one, Japan, right? I found that the respect that Japanese people have for their teachers is maybe that's where it should be.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that's changed either. It's
Yeah, I'd love to see. I mean, that was one of the, that clip that was one of the things that gave me the idea of doing, like what we do in, trying to analyze people's classes and stuff like that, because, maybe we can get more open discussion about, well, this is a good technique, this is a bad technique, or this is, kind of like like the football commentary that they've got going on there.
No, what we need, Neil, is we need these fancy graphics.
Yeah.
Play of the week.
I should start doing stuff like that.
When are we going to get our 3D tech?
Well, have you seen stuff what they do with in America with the weather, where they've got like, he's kind of just stood behind it in front of a green screen, and there's like tornadoes and debris flying around. I want stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
That's, if you subscribe to the channel and help us build our base, I promise at some point we will have that level of CGI graphics put into our episodes.
We need to get our Patreon tiers set up.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. Teacher of the week.
That'd be great. Yeah, we could get teachers sending us videos from their classes.
Yeah, it's just one of the issues is that whole
maybe this is the whatever, we'll just blur them out.
Yeah.
maybe this is the vertical growth that you're talking about. We need to create a social revolution that puts teaching at the forefront. We'll lead the charge with our podcast called ELT Under the Covers. Yeah. Examine, extrapolate, and I can't remember what the next as well.
Extremely well.
Extremely examination.
Extreme examination. Exotic. Yeah. But it would just. I think if we had more of a focus on teachers and the actual contribution that they make to to society, and if it matched the same level as everyone says, oh, it's so important, but then that funding doesn't get there, and then the people, the parents don't take those extra steps to help out the teachers, ask them what they need and all that sort of stuff. If people don't take that action, then you end up with this situation that we kind of have now, right? Where it's just you're just a teacher is kind of like thrown in to a classroom, but not given any sort of, or not given enough tools or recognition for what they're doing, even though we hold it so high as a society, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a great number of issues that need to be considered and looked at, isn't there? One of the things to think about is that already you get a number of teachers. I wouldn't want to put a percentage on it, but let's say there are a number of teachers who do it because it's a job, a nice, safe, secure job with a nice pension at the end if you work in a state school or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the level of appeal of the job is already enough that you get some people who don't do it because they want to be teachers, but do it because it's a nice, safe, secure job. Particularly, I think maybe not quite so much in the UK as other countries, but I don't know too much about that. I'm only going off comments that a lot of people used to make to me in Spain about how lots of people try to become public school, like state school, teachers in Spain, because the benefits are very good. You can basically never get fired and they don't really want to be teachers. And that's obviously an unfortunate situation that you also want to avoid. So there's two sides to this coin, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a really sad situation. And I suppose if we hold up teachers in this way that they present it in their sketch, would it end up in the same way that we have with footballers and other superstar athletes, in that everything is pushed towards results, pushed to, so you get lots of drugs, you get lots of stuff involved in that, where it's not about being the best player, but scratching, getting results so you can show that you're the best. It's kind of the same with with the teaching, where they have the teachers in public schools give these tests, and it's your teacher is graded on how well the students do on the test, so you end up with teachers teaching to the test rather than teaching the subject. So how you balance that out. One of the things that one of the methods that I do like, and I do with my son, is there's this Reggio Emilia approach, and what that is, it's like this whole idea of the Montessori and the Waldorf, kind of away from the more rote public school learning, but it's there's consistent there's a lot of documentation that happens with it. So every time a kid is doing a project, they document that, and they build like a big case file, I guess, for the students. So it's not the case of they have to pass exams and here are the results throughout the years. It's here's work that this child has been doing, and then you build up such a big case file, you should be able to, when you examine it, see a progression. I kind of like that approach. So you could, it helps you, and it helps the student as well, if they can refer to it, see the beginning and the end. But maybe you don't see, if you look at each segment, how there's progression, but over the documentation, over that process, you should be able to see the difference, and therefore you can see there is results to this way of teaching.
Yeah.
How you would implement that, in public school, I'm not sure. But we'll see. Thanks to Key and Peele for letting us have a look at those clips. They are fantastic, and they're great guys. They do a lot more sketches with the teaching stuff as well.
I guess we could let them come on the show if they, asked us nicely.
Well, I suppose if they asked nicely, and we had a lot of money, I don't know. If you are watching this, Key and Peele, we would absolutely love to have you on. I'm a big fan of your sketches, and it's obviously you do have a good understanding of teaching practices. So we'd love to, pick your brain about what your approach was.
Under the sketch. We can get Under the Sketch with Key and Peele.
Well, we could just call it ELT sketchy. Oh wait, that might be
Sketchy ELT.
sketchy ELT. Probably not so good. Anyway, we're not the comedians in this really. We're just teachers, so I'm sure Key and Peele would probably be able to destroy us with.
Oh yeah, we just wouldn't say anything.
Just like, okay. But yeah, if you're out there, this somehow comes to you, we'd love to have you on. Just have a bit of a chit chat. Give us some idea of what brought you to make those sketches. How you nailed it, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so we'll wrap this up. I'm Neil Teacher of Team Teacher, www.teamteacherchina.com. Got a whole bunch of PPT lessons, games for you to download. They're all free. We have all the accompanying tutorials, walkthroughs, some classes even on my YouTube channel, Team Teacher China. We also have Team Teacher Baby, where it's me using the teaching to further educate my child, so teaching into parenting, and Team Teacher English, where all those PPTs that I mentioned, I put them into basically self-teaching videos that you can give to homework or use for homeschool. They're pretty good.
Cool. And you can go to Professor Rich, YouTube Professor Rich, for teaching videos aimed at students. And you can go to Prof Rich Gaming, YouTube Prof Rich Gaming, where you can get just videos, complete waste of time, really, about video games. I'm going to be making lots of those this year. And that's basically all I have on the cards right now. Other projects, thinking about them.